So with that, we're very excited, everyone, for having, I think this is our second webinar. We had an AMA also before that. We're very excited for what's coming up in terms of the product releases that we have. So we're going to talk about that today with the community. I know there are a lot of questions with regard to the tokens, with regard, of course, to the roadmap that we have released for this year, and all those questions. Hopefully, we get to cover today. We hope you stick around for the duration of the webinar. And with that, let's get started. Pedram, I think you already.
Absolutely, super excited. Thanks for the opening, Ellie, and super excited. Thanks for the for being patient. The community, always great to be talking directly to all the folks in the community. So as Ali mentioned, second webinar. So just to make sure, Ali, you can see my screen too, right? The share the screen, yeah. So just maybe before we start, just a little overview of the agenda for today. So we're going to be having three parts. So the first part, we're going to go through some of the updates, the product updates, the company updates really quick, specifically the roadmap that we put out for 2025, which is pretty exciting year. And then the second part, we're going to dive into the products and two products specifically on the roadmap, the mobile app that I know a lot of users have been asking about. So we're going to have a little demo of the mobile app, the most recent developments. And also the second part, we're going to be talking about the medical sphere. I mean, obviously, I'm excited about all the product developments at Lavita, but medical sphere specifically, this is something that was not initially on the roadmap, but emerged as an amazing opportunity. We've been getting a lot of great feedback. So I'm going to be having a live demo of the medical sphere. And this is the first time we're actually doing the live demo of the medical sphere to show the new features that we put on the roadmap. And then the last part, we're going to get to the community Q&A. And we've been through all the social channels. I mean, even though we didn't have any live webinar, I've been personally tracking all the user messages, pretty much all of them, every single day on Telegram, Discord, Reddit, Twitter, X. So basically, I aggregated all the questions that I saw on all these social channels and then basically found the patterns in the questions. So we're going to address those questions first. And then in the second part of the Q&A, if there's any question in the live chat, we're going to go through the questions. And if we haven't already talked about those questions, we're going to address those questions too. So keep it comments. So if you have like any question, please drop it in the Q&A sections. At the very end, we're going to get to all the questions, hopefully. I mean, as much as time we have. So with that, maybe Ali, we can talk a little bit about the product roadmap for 2025. Maybe that was kind of like the one of the updates from basically the company perspective. I mean, everybody's asking about the developments. Obviously, we're super excited about the developments for 2025. And we had a little blog post on the roadmap on the products, specifically like two of them, the mobile app. We had a little demo of the mobile app in the ThetaCon 2024. And so these are basically, the stuff that we're working on. And also for medical evaluation, it's for medical sphere. And some of them actually were a little bit ahead. So I'm going to be talking about like when it comes to, for example, medical sphere. Yeah, with that, Ali, maybe we can just talk a little bit about the roadmap really quick and then transition to the next part and then also like, dive into the actual like products. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Pedram. So 2025 is going to be the year of utility for Lavita. This is what we truly believe. So we're really at a juncture that with these releases that we're going to have, Lavita mobile app obviously is a mobile first use case, both on Android and Apple platforms, initially in the US and then for US based users, and then in the near future for global users, all in 2025. It's going to bring a lot of utility for the Lavita ecosystem. Similarly, Lavita Medical Sphere, which is a web-based first use case, is going to bring a lot of attention and engagement both from users, but also from research community, academic community, and Pedram will go into that as well. So with all the utility that we see ahead of us, I think that's going to be a really inflection point. Obviously, crypto market has always been very volatile. We see that every year from, back in 2017, we've been through so many cycles. Theta itself, of course, has been no exception. But then the key part, as we have learned, is through all these cycles, really the projects that can survive and thrive through these cycles are the ones that have actual real utility and can keep showing value for their audience. So that's going to be really the key emphasis for us this year. So then starting with the Lavita mobile app, we announced this December last year, I believe, right, in ThetaCon. So we showed a demo. We have been working on it since then, making sure that, of course, the features are working, the functionalities are there, but more importantly, we can bring it to scale. So when we hopefully have a lot of users, then we can deliver this kind of a very useful and seamless user experience for all the audiences and for all the users that are utilizing it. So we're going to have the Lavita mobile app released on both iOS and Android stores in May. We're going to have a countdown for that starting soon. So that's the promise that you have. And this will be essentially an app that will go under both the medical and kind of healthcare categories. Before we get into some of maybe the details, of course, for the roadmap and maybe going through some of the live demo we have here today, it would be actually good to get a perspective, like what is the current state of these health related, especially when it comes to personal data applications. So actually on the next slide, this is a very interesting piece of information, piece of news. First of all, by the way, we have a Reddit community. So
Yeah. Good
yeah.
time to advertise the Reddit channel. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So,
It's cool.
so Reddit slash Lavita AI channel. This is something Pedram has started. It's gaining a lot of traction. Surprisingly, actually, there are a lot of medical professionals that are active on Reddit, and they're participating in different forums, participating in different conversations, and contributing because they see, interestingly enough, they see a lot of impact from AI coming to their ecosystem, and so that's one very active area.
Absolutely. I
Um,
just want to maybe like before that, Ali, like great point about Reddit. There's a huge potential because obviously for us, growing the community is really important. So we're like looking around and to see like, what new communities we can tap into. And so we've been in talks with some of the folks, and there is, some, I wouldn't say like minimum, but kind of like a low overlap between the community of users on Reddit and some other social communities. So we thought it's a great place for us, to be like more active. And as Ali mentioned, a lot of great communities when it comes to medical and healthcare. As one example, some of you may already know about it. Ask Docs is one really kind of like active channel on Reddit with more than, I believe, more than 600,000 users, and among them a lot of medical professionals that are having active conversation daily basis. So that was like one of the reasons for us, to get engaged in the Reddit discussion. So if you haven't already joined the channel, please do. And actually, Reddit is a place that I also like frequently. You're gonna find me under the name of Captain Boss. So I frequently post about the most recent advancements in AI in healthcare. So if you're interested, so we're gonna have some kind of like original new material and content on Reddit channel too. And yeah, and with that, actually, let's also like jump into this really important example, Abby.
We should actually do a roundtable just focused on the Reddit stuff that you're curating there, the discussions you're
Absolutely, yeah,
highlighting.
yeah,
But we're gonna have that in the calendar soon. A
for
roundtable,
sure.
kind of in again an online format, but to get the excitement around this stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so this interesting. This just came out February of this year, so just literally a couple of months ago. And Blue Shield, which is one of the biggest insurers in US, discovered that for several years their data was actually being used by Google Analytics and Google Ads. So then the buyers of ad buyers and et cetera, they can target those customers using their personal, very, very personal data related to their health, related to their insurance, related to their conditions, etc. Which is really, really, of course, challenging and essentially upsetting when you realize this thing is going on. I mean, there's no really a secrecy that we know that, of course, these big tech companies, specifically Google, just thrive on harnessing personal data. But when it comes to health data, when these are related to people's wellness, related to people's lives, and when you want to target ads based on that to those people, it really kind of puts into perspective why we need somebody like Lavita AI at this time. So privacy first platform that puts the consumers, puts the users first and foremost. So kind of the consumer first or the user first is our mantra. And we want to make sure that that's what's gaining traction, hopefully, for the whole industry. So we're really excited what Lavita is bringing to the table, and we're really hoping that we can address some of these challenges that are very, very much permeated through the industry. Another interesting kind of information to share with you when it comes to the mobile apps related to health and medical. So this is just a screenshot from Google Play Store. I actually took it just this morning. So under the medical categories, interestingly enough, the top app in the medical category in the App Store is MyChart. So MyChart, I'm sure many of you are familiar with, is from Epic, the electronic health record company provider. And of course, they had the MyChart app that had been used by users. You can see on the next page, it's actually been on the next slide. It's been downloaded more than 10 million times, probably millions and millions of users, not just in the US, globally are using it. It's highly rated, actually. I myself sometimes use it for my family, for everyone, that we are, of course, involved with, and dealing with providers that use Epic EHR. And interestingly, when you read the reviews, which are very good, actually, it's mostly about the use cases that are, of course, very important, but almost like very, a table stake. So like making schedules, making appointments, contacting your provider, like, like a secure messaging chat. So you just ask them a question, and then they get a notification, and then they respond to you when they have a chance. And other use cases, having telehealth sessions. This, of course, took off during the pandemic. So a lot of telehealth, providers that can essentially sign up, and you can use the MyChart app to schedule, similar to like Teledoc and a bunch of others apps that are out there. But these applications, which are almost, I would say, I'm sure they're doing some stuff, but almost at the current time is next to none AI or generative AI enabled technologies in them, right? So really, why we don't have such an app today that brings all the best technologies, both in terms of the privacy and the AI technologies, to the users. And that's hopefully what Lavita is going to be. And that addressable market, that the millions of users that actually we're going to go after, we're going to market these. Lavita AI app is not just meant to be for crypto enthusiasts, it's meant to be for everyone, because it's a healthcare, and everyone, will use it. Similarly, that you can see in how the addressable market essentially is so big for app like MyChart. And then that will bring us, of course, we talked about the inflection point, a year of utility for Lavita AI this year. And then, of course, on our side, we have to make sure, and we will make sure to translate that into, of course, the tokenomics, the crypto velocity, and all of those to translate into value for our stakeholders. So with that, maybe we can go to actually do a demo for the Lavita AI mobile app. So as mentioned, this will be going live in May. We're going to have a countdown. So the exact date we're going to announce soon. And hopefully, all of you, from the community, of course, we encourage you to use it. It's meant to be a very, hopefully, seamless experience, and something that people just use it almost like every day. So when you look at how, kind of the adoption of Gen AI based or LLM based chatbots just been exponential, millions and millions, billions of users, actually, I think, when you look at daily active users, ChatGPT are getting almost to that milestone. It's amazing. It's just such a great opportunity ahead of us, and we're hopefully going to capture some of that. So good question. Actually, since somebody asked, maybe I answered this question. So one of our participants asking, how can you engage people that are not crypto enthusiasts? So this will be essentially marketed in the App Store, again, both on iOS and Android. We're going to have essentially a marketing. So people kind of that are using my chart, they see, oh, there's this Lavita AI app that's also next to it. We're going to have, kind of the content-based marketing showing the use cases. So for what we make sure is that for you, for a typical user that's going to use the Lavita app, you don't have to have kind of the crypto requirement. So you don't have to be already a token holder. You don't have to be already kind of knowing all the details about blockchain and crypto. All you have to know about, hey, I care about my privacy. I want to get the best technology out there in terms of these Gen AI applications. And this could be a great app to use that. And then on our side, we want to, of course, get all those users and make sure that that user activity, the daily active users, monthly active users, that translates into tokenomics for us, meaning that by bringing actual revenue for the app, for the company, in terms of the different use cases that we'll have, that will translate into to the tokenomics for all the token stakeholders.
Yeah, yeah. It's actually a great question. Maybe just one quick note to add that also like when it comes to medical sphere, in a lot of cases we see a lot of folks in industry and academia, they're like just passionate about, contributing to the evaluation and testing of AI models and systems in healthcare. So you see also a lot of like non-crypto folks getting engaged. And obviously for us, we're always like, open to, targeting and kind of like engaging like different types of community of people. And when we get to medical sphere, I talk a little bit more about that. But great question for sure.
Awesome.
Also,
So I'll get started on the demo soon, and then
sure, I stopped my screen, Ali. So we're gonna have the mobile app demo first, and then after Ali, I'm gonna show you also some cool stuff about medical sphere.
and
Uh,
just a quick check on time. So I think we're kind of shooting for 45 minutes, the duration of the webinar. Uh,
yeah,
so
yeah,
hopefully we'll have about maybe 10, 15 minutes of these both demos, and then after
exactly.
that,
Yeah,
of course, we're going to have the Q&A.
sure.
So let me start the screen share on my side. And great. Okay, so Lavita AI app. So this is I'm using, by the way, my foldable phone, so it kind of looks the aspect ratio is a little bit bigger than the typical maybe a slab phone, but of course it works with all the standard iPhone and Android-based devices. So we talked about how Lavita AI app will be essentially a place where you you create this platform to connect all your data, your health data. You can of course use data that you may find interesting for other purposes as well, and then have that in a secure and a very privacy-preserving manner when it comes to actually getting information from that data. So today you can use Perplexity or ChatGPT or any of these large language models, and you can just flat up like upload your data to their platform and then ask questions about it. But in that case, first of all, you're completely giving the control of your data to them. And then more importantly, you don't know, like in the case of Google, you don't know how that data is going to be end up being used. Will it be used for advertising? Will it be used for, kind of this targeted business models? Will be used, of course, maybe to train their next models. So all those things that then will be out of the control of the users. And that's one of the key things that, of course, we completely eliminate when when you're a user of the Lavita app. So the first thing that you could do, actually, I'll highlight also stuff that we've done since the demo of the ThetaCon last year. So one thing you notice is that now we have made it a little bit easier to use the biometrics as a way to authenticate. So previously, as a principle to make sure the data is private and only the user itself can view the data and use the data, we essentially had an encryption method. So the data is only in an encrypted format when it's not being used. When it's being viewed or used for a chatbot application, at that time the user is going to decrypt it. And for that matter, they need like an encryption phrase. Previously, you needed to type it. Now you can use with your biometric to also do that to authenticate and do the decryption. So that's enabled. So let's go, for example, to the data that you have on the My Data section. We are focusing on three types of data. So electronic health records, of course, we'll have an update on that. I'll share it now. quickly with you guys. Imaging, that's another important one. So if you have, the other day I was at Costco getting my, prescription updated for my glasses, and then they had a scan of my retina. So I quickly uploaded that to my Lavita app, and I now get to use it, and will be stored there for whenever I need to use that. The other type of data that's very important is essentially any file for PDF file format. So you may get a blood test result, you may get any type of interaction or test results from your doctor, provider, labs, etc. That just sits in your mailbox, and then you can here securely connect it to your Lavita account, and then be able to again use it for these type of applications. So let's start with the EHR. So currently we have the Sutter Health EHR as an example. These are some example actual data, but as an example uploaded here. Of course, you can connect all sorts of EHR data to this. The important update or key update that we had previously, we have fully integrated with Epic. So which is more than 400 or 500, up to around 500 providers in the US. With this release of the app that's happening in May, we also have the integration with Oracle Health, which used to be, before Oracle acquired it, used to be called Cerner. So with that, we have magnificent coverage of all the EHR essentially in the US. The majority of the US population uses either, based on their provider, uses either Oracle Health, or previously known as Cerner, or Epic. So this will bring our total number of providers to more than 2,000. So 2,000 hospitals, clinics, et cetera, that are using either of these platforms. And now you, as the user, will be able to connect, if you have either of these EHRs, to Lavita platform. So that will be done. Of course, I already connected the data. So, but here you can see that there are now many providers here, again, close to 2,000. So other type of data I mentioned, imaging. So when you're going to view the data, we have, of course, LLM-based use cases later. When you're going to view the data, now you can decrypt the data using your biometrics. When you do that with the screen share of the Zoom, apparently it's going to black out the screen share. So what I see actually in my phone right now, I don't know if you can see this.
Almost, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, almost. So it was actually using my biometrics to decrypt the data. So now that's decrypted, I can look at it later. Of course, we'll talk about how it can be used in our AI-based applications. Another example, let's say the blood test. So this is a blood test, a PDF file. Again, kind of goes to maybe for one. Let's see.
Yeah, I think because you have like the background on, yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I think
basically, what is happening in this kind of like black page right now is just like simply, it's just like asking for biometric confirmation. So for some reason, Zoom is like blocking it. So that's what's happening. So
so. Now I unlocked it with fingerprint authentication, and this is just a sample, but an actual informative data of a blood test. So of course you can store it here, you can view it, etc. But now let's talk about the use cases, right? So this is where we have what is called Secure AI Companion. So this is a key part. So I can connect my data. So let's say I connect my blood test. Again, each time that you're going to use the data, there will be an authentication. So this is ensuring the data privacy. So the unencrypted data, the decrypted data, will never kind of float around for any type of security threat. So again, for using it now, I decrypted with the authentication of biometrics. So now it's connecting the data. Okay, looks like there was a issue. Let me just try it again.
and obviously some of these features when it comes to like production are going to be a little bit faster. Some features in the testing and dev environment might be a little bit slower.
Should be done momentarily. Okay. So now, as you saw the actual PDF file, it was like a table with a bunch of numbers, maybe hard to interpret if you're really not knowledgeable about specific items. This is a specific blood test that counts the different blood cells types. And even if you can read the numbers, okay, what's the implication? Of course, you can see something is low, high, out of range, but what does it mean? What does it mean? How severe it is? So let's ask some of those questions. Um, what are the test results that show out of range measurements? Let's see. Okay, so actually there are a bunch of at least two items, hemoglobin and hematocrits, that is out of that. So let's ask more follow-up questions. So what are the severity of these out of range test results? What are the possible causes? Okay, really, really, a lot of important information, medical information. Of course, disclaimer that this is not a diagnosis and it's based on um, general medical advice. But as you can see, in this particular case, this data indicates that there's potentially a severe anemia, right? So, of course, this is very important. Would anyone, I would not feel comfortable if this was my data to kind of ask these type of questions from Google or ChatGPT. Again, for all those of privacy reasons, because I don't necessarily want those big tech companies to know that this could be an issue for me. So let's ask some other question. For example, what are the treatments I need to seek?
And as Ali, you mentioned a couple of times, which is like a very important point. I mean, when it comes to the actual performance, some of the tech, some of the LLMs that are being developed in terms of performance, the performance could be like different, sometimes even slightly higher. But at the end of the day, it's also about, again, like the privacy of the data that we have. And it comes down to the fact that are you going to be like, trusting any sort of like closed API endpoint with your most sensitive information. So right now you could like basically, basically copy and paste the same information into ChatGPT. Yeah, you can do it. But at the same time, the major question is that, are you going to be like trusting how your data is going to be treated in that closed endpoint? So I think that's one of the most important points here, beyond just the technical kind of like, capabilities of these models and just the performance. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. That's actually kind of related to the question that just was asked. So PD is asking, is the question normalized? The context already given? Is it already given? Is the LM already acting as a medical professional? So that's exactly, you can, let's use ChatGPT as an example. Actually, it gets to know you. So as you use ChatGPT, you kind of create this profile on the background that you may not even be aware of it yourself, but ChatGPT gets to know you. So every time you ask a question, then it gets to kind of provide that context-based answers. Um, Now, ChatGPT doesn't advertise this. There's a way for you to actually go delete it, but would you do that after every interaction? And even if you did so, what's the guarantee that ChatGPT doesn't keep those kind of learning from those profile data on their side? But that's with Lavita AI, that's exactly what you can do. So as you can have more of these data, health data on your My Data section, of course, these provides the context. But again, every time and each time, this is done in a way that you have as the user, you have the control. So you're the only one that can decrypt it. You're the only one that can be saying which data can be used for the answers that I'm seeking, and so on. And of course, you have the ability at any time that you want to delete the data permanently. Um, so this was an example. Of course, what we're working on also to implement this would be in version 1.1 is about the image data. So you get to ask questions also about the image data. For example, the retinal image that we show, you can ask questions, hey, are there anomalies here based on, of course, other publicly known databases? Anything I should be worried? Anything, I should talk about it with my ophthalmologist or something like that, right? That was exactly actually my own experience because I just went for the prescription for the eyeglasses and I got the retinal scan, but there was no like ophthalmologist there to ask, hey, like what does it mean? And there was limited information available from the optometrist, but I didn't necessarily have the best medical advice. But now with this, I can of course get it to the next level. And then maybe the last point about the medical professionals, of course, we'll get to Pedram's section about medical sphere, and of course, engaging a lot of professionals, actual medical professionals, not AI based. And one of our vision is that eventually we're going to actually have a way for medical professionals to interact also with users, but again, ensuring that we have the data privacy. One last thing I highlight, I know we're running a little bit on time. So one last thing I highlight is the My AI Agent section. So previously we had called this My Research, but actually in our updated roadmap, this will be your AI agent. So in our version 2 release, which will be the second half of 2025, we'll have essentially your AI agent that will be able not to just give you answers, about medical information, but actually perform some tasks for you. So this could be anything from, making appointments or actually connecting different sources of data, looking at some certain medical activities, reaching out to, for example, your provider, all sort of things. And that will essentially make the use case and the utility even higher for the users. So with that, I'll stop this. I know we have limited time, and we'll talk about medical sphere, and then we'll have more time at the end for Q&A, of course, for both of these.
Absolutely. Okay, let me share my screen. Thank you, Ali, for the mobile app. I mean, obviously exciting stuff. And maybe like before jumping to the demo of the medical sphere, I just want to spend a couple of quick minutes just to talk about, why medical sphere and why this initiative. The fact is that AI in healthcare is inevitable. It's already happening. It's more than obvious, when we talk to hospitals, medical doctors, a lot of medical professionals are already using some sort of AI tool in the actual clinical setting. With that fact, basically, one of the main questions or even concerns is that, what does it take to make this like new era of AI augmented healthcare more safe and more trustworthy? Like, what does it take to build that trust to ensure that these AI models are going to be working perfectly fine into the actual clinical setting across a lot of different downstream applications? Could be like expert facing, or it could be patient facing, like people, who do not necessarily have any sort of like medical knowledge, but still are using these apps for some sort of like healthcare or medical, applications. So there are many factors. We can, talk about like bunch of like, key elements here. But I think one of the most important elements and one of the key factors in building that trust to ensure that these AI models are safe in production, in industry, is a robust way of testing and evaluating these models. So we got to basically show that these models can work under any circumstances. And if we do that evaluation and testing right, like any other sort of like, standard software development or even like building a machine learning or AI pipeline. If you can do that right, that's a really important step to building that trust, to ensure that once we deploy these models into production, they're going to work perfectly fine and they're going to be safe. And we should all care about it because we are pretty much like the end user of all these like applications. Like you go to a doctor and the medical professionals are already using these AI apps, then the again like the question is like how can we ensure that these basically use cases are going to be safe and trustworthy. And the question is, okay, like if testing and evaluation is good, then let's just go and do this evaluation. What's the problem? Let's just like, do that testing to ensure that these AI models are good. Problem solved. Well, the thing is that it's not that simple. The major problem is that the most existing benchmarks that we are using for testing these AI models for healthcare applications, they're being saturated and they do not necessarily basically measure what we should be measuring when it comes to the use of AI in healthcare. I think one of the really good examples of such benchmarks being saturated is this benchmark called MedQ&A. You might even have heard of it in the news sometimes. It's basically a question, a set of questions, USMLE style questions, as we call it, United States Medical Licensing Exam. You have a little description about a patient, followed by a question and a bunch of options. And the job of the model is just basically to find the right answer to the question given the context. And as we can see on the chart on the left, we've been seeing a steady progress in the performance of the most large language models, the flagship language models, including ChatGPT, MedPalm, and all these like models that we see in academia and industry, basically in the performance on this data set. And in 2025, basically the most recent performance reported on this data set is 96.5% accuracy. But the major question here is that does that necessarily reflect the actual value? Does the score actually translate to actual value in clinical setting? And there are many proof to show that is not the case. Basically, getting high performance on MedQ&A and benchmarks like that doesn't necessarily mean that we have a more reliable AI in healthcare. That's a known fact. That's been proven. That's been shown. Many examples for that. So it's more than obvious that now is the time to rethink the way we are conducting evaluation in healthcare and AI basically in healthcare. That's a known fact. That's actually this is a really important time to rethink this whole kind of like framework that we're using for testing and evaluation. Basically, if we want to summarize what's been happening, the major focus in industry and academia has been actually on automated testing for obvious reasons, because automated testing, like computing the accuracy, is pretty easy to compute. It doesn't need human evaluation, which is pretty costly and time consuming. But the fact is that, we have to move beyond that. We have to also like, do some testing on the cases, for example, of a long form text that is being generated by a model. That example that I showed you in the previous slide, in real world, it doesn't work like that. In real world, you do not go to the doctor and say, hey, doctor, this is all information about me, and this is my question, and you give your doctor a bunch of options and ask your doctor, hey, what is the right answer to my question? In real world, you have a free form conversation, multi-turn with your doctor back and forth. So this is not the way that we are doing testing. So we're not doing much enough like enough type of testing on that sort of scenarios, which are a little bit closer to the real world tasks that we're dealing with. The real world tasks like where these LLMs are eventually going to be deployed in. So the major kind of like next step, one of the major next steps is to engage human experts and human lay users into this evaluation process to address some of the challenges and limitations that we have in testing AI models in production right now. And ultimately, the goal is to get to a point that they can do all these testing real time in real clinical setting in the hospitals, in the urgent care centers, to figure out how these models are actually doing in production in real world clinical setting. And there's not much going on, not even in academia, let alone industry. So that is why actually, we put it into this framework at Lavita, and we want to coin it as the ladder of medical AI evaluation, basically to simplify this roadmap, these like multiple steps that we need to take to ensure that whatever AI model that we're building and deploying for basically healthcare is going to be safe and trustworthy. And we have three major steps. And maybe like a quick side note, for those of you who know about Judai Pearl and the Book of Why and the Ladder of Causation, which shows basically the levels of human understanding, this ladder is also inspired by that ladder. Basically, we have three major steps as a roadmap, as a framework for properly testing the AI models in basically any sort of like pipeline that we are building so that we ensure they're ready for production. So the first step, a quick automated testing, like what we have been doing mostly, that gives us a really quick insight on how these models are working. And then we move to the next step to conduct some more evaluation on more real world kind of like tasks, but in an offline setting, not in an online setting yet. And then ultimately we get to the last and final step, where we call the wrong tree on this ladder, which is the ultimate goal. So obviously, it's time to climb the ladder, and that's what we did. Last year, if you remember, we published this public benchmark for long form real world medical question answering to address some of the challenges I mentioned. So we put out this paper, we presented the paper in Vancouver. It's, by the way, publicly available, like fully open source. So you go check it out, all the labels of this benchmark. And this is a little overview of the data set. But one major question after building this benchmark, we presented the benchmark, we said, okay, this is amazing. We got a lot of great feedback. But the major question here is that, hey, what if we could conduct such high quality medical evaluation at a much larger scale? That's the main question here. Building a benchmark with a group of doctors from one institution is nice, but why shouldn't we be able to do that at a scale? Like instead of one institution, instead of one group of people, why, not just kind of like, conducting this testing? By the way, not even just in the US, but globally, in every single country, we have a lot of medical professionals. We have a lot of end users in different parts of the world, and we've been talking to these people. So that is why we started this initiative. We called it Medical Evaluation Sphere. And as the name implies, it's really meant to create this community of medical professionals and lay users to contribute to the evaluation of AI models in real time. So, for those of you who may know, we have already actually published a version. The first version of Medical Sphere is actually available at the sphere.lavita.ai if you go right now. But the thing is that, over time, we got a lot of interest and we decided to add more features to this website to make it even more engaging, to add more capabilities to this sphere, and to really, and I firmly believe in that, to make it the number one, the leading platform for conducting any sort of evaluation for AI models in the medical and clinical domain globally. That's the goal. That's what we're shooting for. So with that, I'm just going to quickly also show you, this is the exciting part that I promised. So I'm going to show you for the first time the live demo of the Medical Sphere, the new version of it with these added capabilities. So let me just like stop sharing the screen really quick. And I know we are a little bit over time, but thanks for sticking around. So I'm going to share my screen right now. And everybody, let me know if you see my screen. So can you see my screen? Okay. So this is like a live demo. This is kind of like a basically the dev version that we have already deployed. So this is everything is live. So if we saw any glitch, we've been all sort of like testing. So I think it should be pretty smooth. But basically, the idea is that we have this like new version of the medical sphere, and basically, this is the homepage. The one major difference is that we have now added this role management system. So now you can create an account on this website. So previously, there was no concept of like creating an account, but we thought, okay, if you want to engage more users, if you want to, for example, assign badges to different roles, for example, to medical professionals, to lay users, to keep track of their scores over time. We wanted to add this kind of like, account basically management system. So right now, basically, if you have an account, you can like simply log in. And if not, you can just basically simply register for an account. And the verification step is very simple. All we need is just an email address. So we're not collecting any other information from you. We don't need any other information. So the sole purpose of that is just to have an account to keep track of your own records, like the votes that basically you're submitting on this website. So obviously, when we make it live, you can just like create an account. But right now, I'm just gonna basically log in to my account that I created, and so I'm just gonna sign in here. And after signing in, we're going to go to the homepage. Okay, obviously I'm the admin, so I'm like the first user and admin on this website, but I'm just going to also like start, testing out this platform. So the idea is that we have a little instruction box in here to make it like pretty clear how you can do that evaluation. But the idea is this, you can just simply start typing in any question. And by default, you're going to do that testing and evaluation. Basically, the idea is that you have two models anonymously and you want to basically test them out. You want to, contribute to the evaluation of these models to see how they're performing on medical questions. So for now, for example, I say that, hey, I have a headache. What should I do? I don't have a headache now. So basically, just for the sake of an example here. So you type in a question and we have a pretty good, set of endpoints. So it should be like a pretty fast generation of two responses for the question that I just asked. And then after that, you just simply read the responses and you basically, choose if model A is better or if model B is better. If there's like a tie, meaning that both responses have the same quality, or neither of them are good response. So in this case, I, for example, go through the responses. I say, okay, like for example, just randomly, like model B is better. And after I submit my vote, the identity of the models are going to be revealed. So basically, remember, it was an anonymous battle, so I didn't know anything about the model identities before submitting my vote. But once I submit my vote, I see that model A was a Llama, Llama 3.1, the 405 billion version, and then the model B was the Claude 3.5, right? So I submitted my vote, and after submitting my vote, I can either choose basically to continue the conversation or I can just like start a new comparison, reset the whole form. And then on the left, you also have this menu. You have access to all the votes that you have already submitted. So in this case, I have like the full access to the vote that I just submitted. So I voted for model B in a comparison between model A and model B, two models. So another major update on the website is that now we support image input. So this is something that didn't exist before. So I'm just also gonna quickly add an image here. This is pretty cool. I'm really excited about this feature. So because obviously we go beyond just text and we're gonna move toward multimodality. So in this case, just also to show you that we have a non-anonymous version. So you can just simply switch off this anonymous battle and you can actually choose the models yourself. So in this case, let's say I want to choose, for example, Claude 3.7, which is the most recent model by Claude, and then I choose like another model from OpenAI. Let's say like basically GPT 4.0, the version that got dropped last year. So in this case, I say that, hey, what do you see in this image? Submit my question. And we can see that the two models, the Claude 3.7, both of the models support image input. So you can see that they kind of like, accurately say, I mean, we're not going to go through the content to kind of like verify the factuality, but clearly they can recognize that, hey, this is like a chest x-ray, blah, blah, blah. And then the same thing, you can compare the responses and submit your vote. In this case, I'm just simply going to say there's like a tie, right? So again, one major update is that we now support any sort of image input. So you can not only test out these models with text, but also with image input, which is pretty cool. So you can put in any sort of like medical image here. And another thing is that, which is a major update, also on the roadmap, we added this live leaderboard now. So as you submit your votes, you're going to see basically the performance of these models on the live leaderboard. So right now we had submitted some votes before, but also as you realize, I had like one vote with the Claude 3.5 involved, and basically is the vote that here. So if you remember, I had Claude 3.5, and Claude actually won that battle or competition. So that is why I actually previously had only lose rate, but now it has a second vote, and basically because the second vote was a win, now the model's score is updated and kind of like moved up the ladder on the leaderboard. So this is pretty cool. And you can see basically the real time ranking of these models on the medical sphere. Also, I'm just gonna maybe the last point, I'm gonna wrap it up. On the admin panel, I'm just gonna show a little bit of a behind the scene of what is happening. So nothing in the sake of transparency and what is basically, the admin is doing on this panel is pretty simple actually. So for the admin dashboard, so obviously I signed up and with two different emails. So we have the admin and we have the status if your email has been verified. So we just like show, hey, verified. And if it's not verified, we can also like, have this option to manually basically change that verification status. In some cases, for example, in the future, we might have some people, this is not just for the email verification. For example, we may have a medical professional who wants to get verified. They directly reach out to us. We have that option too. But also on the leaderboard management, the one cool thing is that sometimes we may need to recalculate some of those scores. So right now, you see the last time that we recalculated the scores was basically April 30th, like earlier this morning. So I can also, as an admin, to kind of like refresh the points basically to make sure that all the scores are, most updated. And when you go to the leaderboard, you're going to see also that time is being reflected. So basically, I just updated the score. So that time is going to reflect that the most, recent time of recalculation. Also, we have the model management setting. I'm just going to emphasize that we have the most recent models on this platform, basically from 4 organizations right now. So we have models from OpenAI, the most recent OpenAI models, the Claude from Anthropic, all the Gemini models, and also all the open models from Meta, including the Llama 4 models that just got dropped, the Maverick and the Scout. So basically, you're going to get access to the most recent LLMs for free. So that's really cool. So basically, you're not paying anything for now, and you have access to all of them. And also, we have access to the vote logs. Basically, we're not doing anything crazy with the vote logs. We just want to know, what is basically the votes that has been submitted, so we can use it actually for some kind of like benchmarking and testing purposes. So just wanted to give you this overview of the basically admin panel too. And again, as Ali mentioned, we're like planning to release it in May. I'm personally very excited about this platform. So it's going to be a bunch of really cool features, major upgrade, compared to the last version of the medical sphere that we had. And we hope obviously we get a lot of engagement. And that is also, back to one of the questions asked in the chat. This is also a way to reach out to some newer communities. We've seen a lot of folks from the AI, from the medical field. These are not necessarily crypto people, but they would love to participate in the medical sphere to conduct some testing and evaluation, which is going to be pretty cool. So with that, sorry that it took a little longer, so I'm going to pause here and we're going to get to basic questions. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Pedram. Yeah, let's switch to Q&A. That was a great presentation of Medical Sphere. So we have a bunch of questions related to the tokens. So maybe we can address kind of high level and then we can go specific questions. Of course, more questions are very welcome to be posted. So of course, we think about, we mentioned in the beginning that anything that we do has to bring utility for real use cases. Our plan is then to be able to connect that utility to token value. So our current plan is actually to use, once we have the mobile app, similarly with the medical sphere. Of course, medical sphere may be a little bit different in terms of the audience, but we'll talk about that as well, is to essentially monetize, right? So once we have, as you see, like my chart, millions and millions of people are using it. So even with a small kind of fee-based, subscription-based, specifically for those more premium features of the application, for example, we anticipate to bring actual revenue to the company. And then the tokenomics at a high level would be essentially for token holders to have a claim or essentially receive part of that revenue. So it's a revenue share with our stakeholders. So of course, we're going to use some of it to cover operating costs, mainly cloud infrastructure and cloud computing. And then the rest of it, or a very large portion of it, would also go to the Lavita stakeholders. How did it happen? We essentially will buy back Lavita, through of course different channels or directly. We'll think about that more once we get to that point. But then that way we can bring back value to the people that already hold Lavita tokens. So that's one way. Then the second way, which is kind of related to the app, but also to medical evaluation sphere, is that increasing the audience. So as we have all these audience engaged and more and more increasing, because healthcare is just such a big ecosystem, US and globally, then they get introduced to Lavita. And then of course we're gonna start promoting that, hey, Lavita token is actually a way for you to get access to some of the features that may be available in the Lavita ecosystem. Some of the features in the mobile app. Later we'll have some maybe premium features for the medical sphere as well. And then that way people will see the value in holding the Lavita tokens to unlock and access to those features. So that will also create demand for Lavita tokens. So this will hopefully, again, for us, is the matter of we need to bring utility. We're not a meme coin. We're not obviously a coin that's just based on unsustainable momentum or other sort of kind of a very transitory models. We're really based on how we can bring the utility for real users in the broader healthcare, not just crypto, in the broader healthcare, and then translate that into tokenomics for our Lavita stakeholders. So of course, we very much appreciate for people that have been staking Lavita, holding to their tokens for a long term. We think this is going to be very transformative in terms of a product and platform, and then hopefully that value will come back to the token holders.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, no, thanks, Ellie. I think also like the questions, I see like some of the questions in chat are also related to the questions that have been already posted. And people are, talking about the market, the product marketing strategy and in general, like exchanges. And I think as Ali mentioned, basically one of the things like when it comes to like, I know like a lot of users are asking about the listing on the exchanges. Basically, our approach is building a strong community first. And we believe, that community kind of like is going to give us some obviously, power and tools to get, to reach to more kind of like, exchanges and listings. So basically that's like one of the things that we're trying to do here. And through like different channels, like, obviously part of it is just, building more social channels. And that's one of the reasons actually we started, some new channels like the Reddit that we talked about, but also speaking about like building community, I think like examples like medical sphere. So we've seen a lot of interest from different sort of communities, and we said, okay, like why not, kind of like open it to more kind of like users publicly, like real time. So I think we're gonna get a lot of like engagement from the kind of like products like initiatives like medical sphere. And once we build obviously a kind of like a stronger community and get more traction, that is going to give us more power and more kind of like tools for also to build a better tokenomics. So that's kind of like one kind of like bigger picture of one way that we're thinking about it. And as Ali mentioned, I mean we're not going to be a meme coin, and we obviously want to organically grow this community and initiatives like medical sphere, which by the way was not original on the map. So basically we've been tracking the trends and basically, we kind of like, seeing like where we get like more traction and more kind of like engagement from the community. So yeah, so just wanted to add that to what Ali mentioned. Yeah.
Great. Let's go through some of the more of the questions. So
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
we have a couple of participants asking about kind of a marketing strategy. Very important question, right? So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think obviously we kind of maybe have an Venn diagram. We have the circle of the kind of the crypto enthusiasts and crypto participants, but then we also have another circle, presumably it's actually quite bigger, that are more about just healthcare, health applications, people, essentially everyday users that using it for health and medical, as you see kind of in the App Store. There are many of those type of apps. The intersection of these two currently is small. Actually, you don't see that many apps that are connecting the two really for real use cases. And you don't see that many users also essentially that, hey, maybe are both very active in using health apps, but also very crypto knowledge. So what we're going to do is kind of expand that intersection. So our marketing strategy is driven by that. For people that are within the healthcare ecosystem, our marketing would be, hey, this is just a great application. And we talk and similar medical sphere when you're marketing it to the medical professionals. Hey, this is just a great platform for you to use it for what you're already doing. So if you're already using my chart and there are millions of users to kind of promote and advertise to them, or if you're a medical professional that are using some sort of research platform to understand the impact of AI and how it's working in the medical domain, as you can see it also in the Reddit post that we have. Again, those are what you already are doing, and Lavita is going to be a very important update and way for you to get more out of those type of activities. So we're going
Yeah.
to market those. And then on the crypto side, of course, we're now going to market more about the Lavita as well, Lavita token, which is going back to, hey, we want to advertise and market. That market is marketing is a better term. We want to market at how Lavita tokens, once you become a stakeholders, all of this actually unlocks the value you can get from these platform and the app. So that's kind of
Yeah.
to drive our marketing strategy. One of the anonymous attendees brought a good question about any biotech customer. Actually, through our investor network, we're connected to more than a dozen biotech companies. And one of our plans specifically for medical sphere is to get more, not just medical professionals, but people that are more maybe in the biopharma in terms of drug development, those type of things, especially the ones that are in clinical trials and have more kind of data driven as opposed to kind of maybe the lab based that are maybe based on more real world evidence and use case, real world evidence data that then will bring it to the medical sphere platform.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Maybe, but the good points at the end. I want to mention about the medical sphere. Obviously, because I saw some folks also like, fairly like saying that, hey, this is also obviously we're not, thinking about it just from the research perspective. This is just beyond research and, just like testing for the medical sphere as we put it on the roadmap, we definitely have some plans to kind of like, add some capability. For example, if there's an institution with a proprietary model, if they want to test their model, we kind of like enable them to bring the model into the medical sphere to provide an endpoint with their own access. So we don't even need to kind of like access to their model. So they can host their endpoints, but the added value for us is going to be that we're going to be connecting them to a really great community of medical professionals and lay users so that they can test and evaluate their models real time. So, and there's like a obviously monetization opportunity there. So I think for us early on, and I want to emphasize the medical experience like a very kind of like, a very large kind of like vision. It's like a very big initiative. And we see like actually companies are being shaped around the concept of, building a pipeline for kind of like, testing and evaluation. And we believe actually medical field and clinical field and generally healthcare is a big enough sector for itself to have its own dedicated initiative and platform for testing and evaluation of AI models. And that's what we're building here. So our approach is going to be like early on, focused on basic, adoption and basically because also like through conversations with medical professionals in the field, we realize that, hey, not all the time the financial incentive is the kind of like the most important kind of like incentive for medical professionals to get excited to be participating in these sort of like activities. So for now, obviously we're going to be like organically grow the community, and I believe by adding some new features like for example this kind of like badging and role management mechanism, we're going to encourage a broader set of users to get engaged. And then obviously once we have a big enough community, there are massive opportunity for monetization and obviously, to kind of like, utilize the Lavita token, as part of that kind of like, plan too. So yeah,
awesome. We have some more questions, so make sure we address them. So there's a
sure.
question: how many people are working at the on the Lavita products? We have several. So we have engineers, several engineers in U.S., Canada. We have collaborators in Asia. Obviously, Pedram and myself that are working on this. But at the end of the day, we're also a startup. So we're
Yeah.
consider ourselves a startup. That's why the inflection and kind of bringing that utility and showcasing that is going to be very important. Ultimately, we would actually don't anticipate to necessarily become too big of a company. Again, that's not our goal. really with increasing the utility, what we hope for is actually kind of open up the platform to the sense that we can bring developers that then can participate. We talked about the AI agents. That's where one particular area that we're not going to build all these AI agents ourselves. We're going to open up the platform so then AI people that publish AI agents, of course, conforming to all the privacy requirements and security requirements that we have, be able to publish AI agents on Lavita platform. Similarly with other, kind of the stuff that we're doing. So that will enable the scaling for us, even with a smaller team at a startup scale. There's a question is, how will token buybacks from platform revenues work? Will the tokens be burned, blocked? Essentially, right? So I think the burning model is something that's well understood and people have been working on. That's also what we're working on as well. We still have to figure out what the level of detail should be, or what details should be coming to. For example, you have different tiers for different type of, depending on how many Lavita tokens you have, and then the company essentially buys those tokens and burn those tokens, and kind of that creates transferring the value from the revenue that comes in from the utility back to the token holders. Of course, there's going to be a lot more details. We were still working on that, and a lot of it also will be driven by hopefully the adoption we'll see on the products. There's a great question about how does Edge Cloud help you in your medical application. So today, I would say the overlap is still minimal in the sense that we're still kind of using some of the more traditional cloud computing infrastructure. What we have done actually, maybe was what part of our initial launch was what we call these Lavita AI jobs, which are still
Mhm.
running today, and they are on the Edge Cloud, and it's very important avenue for engagement. But we're
Yeah.
going to have an update on that also. So that's part of a update that we're going to have later this year. So how we can kind of bring it to the 2.0 version, and then we enable maybe a more important utility for those Lavita AI jobs that are done in the Edge Cloud.
That's actually also I was in touch with some of the folks in Theta, so we had a conversation. As Ellie mentioned, like AI jobs for us was really amazing, and I was also like checking real time on Hugging Face. We're still among the top most downloaded data sets, which shows a great engagement. But also like one of the visions we have. I mean, obviously, as Ellie mentioned, we are a startup company, so we still have some limited resources. So we have to really mindful of the resources that we have with some major products. But I think one of the visions for the AI jobs is moving toward a more dynamic kind of like, scenario where we can enable users to define their own task. Right now, we have like one task, like medical question answering, like the model is being fine-tuned, pretty much like the same thing all the time. But the goal is really to kind of like also enable users to bring their own compute resources to contribute to the, basically to this kind of like AI jobs. And also if they want to define some custom tasks for running. So yeah, so basically that's kind of like, and actually Theta has done a pretty good job. They have like some kind of like, nice SDKs and APIs that we could leverage to kind of like, build a customized version of basic, the Edge Cloud specifically for healthcare use cases. But yeah, definitely something that we're thinking about. Yeah, for future.
Great. So there are some more questions about actually Theta Drop NFTs. Great questions. Yes, we will, as we talked about, kind of creating this more utility for the tokens. We'll have definitely have in mind to use the previous NFTs that was used on Theta Drop and distributed to some of our early adopters, and then some in the future perhaps that we'll do, and then bring some specific exciting use cases for that, and maybe some early accesses to some of the stuff we're doing, and then we'll bring those to you at the time. Why not connect bio companies with KOLs with regard to medical ad boards? That's a great idea. I think ultimately, maybe a higher level approach is that what we want to do is actually connect these different participants in the health system, right? So we have the medical professionals, we have, of course, the patients, and we have KOLs that could be very much relevant to the medical research, medical evaluation sphere. So definitely our vision is to connect, that create a network effect. That will be the avenue for us to create the moat around the company in the long term, moat around the platform in the long term. Do you plan to expand into other blockchain communities? Very great question. I think I think our priority is still to make sure actually that we go after healthcare community, well, after health communities. So once we prove, and hopefully this will be in 2025, we show that, hey, there are a lot of people that just regular users, but because these are for them, the most important part of it is health, just the health application, right? Then that also then we can would be a leverage for us to then get other blockchain communities as well. I think there's a lot of value for us to go, of course, in other blockchain communities, and because that's also a target, generally for crypto adoption. But I think what we want to first make sure that we have in terms of the real utility is that focusing on what we bring to just the regular users that want to have these health related applications, and then with that we'll definitely go beyond other communities that maybe we haven't reached out today yet. What excites Lavita about Theta Network's roadmap, and how often do you meet with the Theta developers? Very exciting for us, actually. So this year, maybe I mentioned this one as a quick answer to that. So this year there will be the kind of the Theta Europe, ThetaCon Europe, Eurocon, and then there will be the plan for all these kind of developer day activities, and not just a hackathon, but something that's actually more engaged and can be basis of creating some companies or some platforms or some startups, that sort of thing. So we'll definitely we'll have a plan to engage there, specifically again with medical and health related applications. So we'll be there and we'll engage with Theta developer community. Let's see if there are
Yeah.
any other questions.
A lot of, yeah, and also like I think we already addressed as I mentioned in the beginning. So I went through, I pretty much like checked all the social channels like every day. So I tried to, and I summarized the most important questions that I saw in the community. I think again, like most of them were about the marketing strategy. I think we already talked about it, and obviously some people ask about the exchanges and all the situations in the past couple of months. I think we addressed that, also like the plan to kind of like obviously expand the token utility and improving the tokenomics, and with the approach of like building organically this community and grow this community and utility first. And so yeah, so I was like going through the list, and I think we mostly kind of like address the questions that were asked offline, like in this online session. And yeah, I think pretty much addressed like everything. I'm like going through the list and how many people, I mean, we addressed that. I mean, for medical sphere, I just want to let you know that I'm basically working on this 24/7. So I'm like directly working on the actual kind of like development of the website. And I'm super excited about that. I think for me it's a good sign, because we've been working on this, especially on this like new version for a couple of weeks now, non-stop, and I cannot wait to basically release it to public. I think it's like a massive opportunity there. So yeah, super
Pedram,
pumped.
related to that, there's one maybe last question we cover. Is there any medical institute interested in this platform? You
Absolutely. I mean
and there
yeah,
are
yeah, the
other
first.
institutions that were engaged in
Thank you.
medical.
Yeah, the first, I mean, the first partnership that we started was a very well-known medical institution, Dartmouth and Geisel Medical School. So I was actually in Dartmouth in person myself. Basically, this benchmark that we built and we published last year in NeurIPS 2024, and we presented in Vancouver. It was basically in a direct partnership and collaboration from the medical doctors from the Dartmouth CFI Center for Precision Medicine, and the Dartmouth Hospital. And also, we have another collaboration that is completed now, but since it's in the pipeline and it's under review, I cannot talk much about it publicly. But to answer your question, yes, like medical institution, and we also got some interest from Stanford, because obviously I'm in the Bay Area, so we have a lot of interest from Stanford Medical School. And my basically kind of like I think after releasing the medical sphere, the new version publicly, my hope is that we're gonna basically get a lot more engagement from these like medical institutions, and especially since we are taking an open approach when it comes to benchmarking and testing. We saw a lot of interest and engagement from a lot of different medical and research institutions and some institution in industry. So So yeah, so basically, in the case at least the medical sphere, is a very high interest. So we're only going to be doubling down on that. So
Great. One great question from Daniel. Can Lavita take the space left by 23andMe as an ambitious target? Great question. Definitely a lot of learnings from their, kind of outcome, right? 23andMe, of course, was a very, ambitious, vision for itself. What they enabled was pretty unique. They were leader in the industry, but then ultimately they didn't find the right business for it, right? So there's definitely a lot of learnings from that. And then what we'll do we think is actually going to address that because their main challenge was, okay, you can get your genomic data, you can get some insight, but then it's limited. First of all, it's a static type of data, so how frequently you want to use it. You get your report once, maybe a few other reports later on, but then do you have a reason to just go back and get more information? And the answer is with just genomic data now, there's no such a use case. And then the second was, I would say, still privacy, right? So, okay, maybe I give my genomic data to 23andMe. Many people actually opted to delete their data. But then also genomic data in its like a isolation doesn't make any sense. Even if you share that data with biopharma companies, as actually 23andMe, they had a data pact with some big biopharma companies to use that data for drug development. But then that even didn't produce any good outcome because genomic data is just one angle. You need other source of data that come from user to actually make that altogether comprehensive platform useful for the user. So not just genomic data, but EHR data. We didn't get to talk about this today. Wellness data from fitness trackers, et cetera. That will be part of our roadmap. Other type of data, all these, test results and imaging and all these things. If you have a place like Lavita that you can bring all those data in one place, and of course, then you're comfortable and you know that, hey, my data is private and secure and all those things, then that's going to unlock the whole value. So I think, from the elephant, the kind of the proverbial, they maybe got one part right, 23andMe, just the genomic data, but what they should have done, what they couldn't do or didn't realize is that, hey, you need to have a whole picture of, all these sort of health data enabled by, of course, privacy technologies and secure implementation on top of, of course, AI capabilities to be able to make it a useful platform. And hopefully we'll do that. Lavita will do that.
yeah, I mean, we have the last. We will continue buying Lavita. Thank you for your support. We appreciate it. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you.
and yeah, I mean, and maybe like to address that, I mean, thanks definitely the community for being patient. We try to have like more direct communication for sure, like more webinars and basically, more Q&A sessions. But again, like I'm personally kind of like, every single day check all the social channels. So I try to get feedback like every day, like real time. And we may not like, necessarily like directly answer like every single question, but I'm monitoring like pretty much everything. So obviously, thanks for your support, and we're excited. So I think there's like a huge potential, and yeah, and we're gonna be like focusing on building the community and growing the community and keep building. So
Awesome. So thank you everyone for the questions, for participation. We're going to have the video recording also posted online for those who couldn't participate or want to watch it again. We'll have soon updates. Of course, we mentioned the countdowns for both the mobile app and the medical sphere. So
May,
we'll
yeah.
see that soon did I say May? Okay, May. Yeah, this month essentially.
Medical is we're definitely May. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's gonna.
same with Lavita
Yeah.
app. And then with that, of course, we'll have more of these sessions that we mentioned. In addition to the webinars, we want to have something like a roundtable, maybe because we see a lot of excitement in the Reddit, so we can actually get some participants and community members from there. And it could be also talking about other. So we don't not every session will be about Lavita products or platforms, but other kind of developments in the medical AI domain and what's interesting and what's on the horizon for the users. So with that, thanks so much, everyone, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you everyone for sticking around. Thank you for joining. Thank you.